After 40 years, it seems Toronto's figs might have outgrown their welcome.
It's a shame, they're a beautiful tree, but let's move them somewhere else.
The trees are healthy, but the problem lies underground. Concrete paths are becoming an obstacle, and business owners feel they're flushing money down the toilets.
It's not good to be having the pipes blocked and you're trying to provide a service and a place of comfort for customers.
Who also have a few issues.
They've been here since I've grown up, so I like them, but the birds that get in them are really loud, especially in the evening, so it gets kind of annoying.
Council agrees, but after a 6-year fight, businessman Paul Campbell is angry it could be another 2 years before anything's done.
Some of the business owners suggesting at the moment that maybe a class action is the next part to maybe get a result that we would like.
Mayor Greg Piper says council's biding time because there's a grand plan for the Esplanade. A landscape architect will design a figless main street at a cost in the hundreds of thousands.
Mate, that's typical council, isn't it? I mean, bureaucracy works that way. 2 years, gee, that might be 10 years then. Maybe another council in, who knows? And just what the figs will be replaced with is certain to divide a town.
This is the best thing that Toronto has going for it.
I like them, I'd rather them stay.
Nat Wallace, NBN News. The community centre has organised what it's calling a crisis meeting. The recent closure of Maxwell's Creek timber mill and a doctor's shortage have placed more pressure on the town.
The town itself is reeling from Tilligra Dam, still waiting on a decision as regards that. The disinvestment in the town was estimated by the Chamber of Commerce at around $7 million a year back in 2007.
In big games, the bounce of the ball can make all the difference, and fortune favoured Merewether on that front for the first try. Winger Sam Clifton regathering twice before finishing this incredible effort. It was pace and poise that worked for Blake Crichton, with the fullback slicing through for a 10-point lead. Maitland deserves something for their efforts, and Bryant Delforce got them back within 3. But James Burtos found his way to the line all too easily to regain a 10-point buffer for Merewether at half-time. If the Greens got away to a flyer in the first, it was all Maitland after the break, with Christian Punch landing the first blow, before John Runshall got the Blacks back level at 20 all. The Greens went to go-to man Jason Strawn to get their noses back in front. But again, the Blacks drew level. Dan Runshall's try and Punch's sideline conversion had it all square. Sam Bright booted Merewether 3 points clear, but the Blacks just refused to be beaten. Captain Luke Cunningham found the line and an incredible win to book them a spot in the grand final against Hamilton next week and leave the minor premiers wondering just what could have been.
It's been hard work to make us look good, but the Hunters fashion industry is finally taking shape.
I think we've put our name on the fashion map a little bit, so getting a bit more recognition from around Australia.
Newcastle Fashion Week is a chance to show off, especially for young designers.
I think to really make it, you need good experience, so you need to know what you're doing, you need confidence in yourself and some great ideas as well. Help
also doesn't go astray. Wade Ambler is the Australian Hairdresser of the Year.
I think everything is equally as important. The look needs to be head to toe.
And he's not the only one trying to raise the city's profile. Former Novocastrian Rennie Shivanga is now sitting pretty in catwalk world.
You know, Newcastle Fashion Week could just become as big as Sydney in a few years, or even New York, and all these international buyers will come.
And the organisers are on the right path. They didn't put a foot wrong at today's official launch. But perhaps a step back is more to your liking. These dresses are hand-woven, some created in 1915, and they'll be brought to life again at a charity fashion show next week, thanks to a group of ladies who love their clothes.
It's so interesting to look back at the fashions of the time, and they do carry a lot of reminders and memories.
But your wardrobe isn't everything. Just ask these men.
It's called the pose down, or in the industry they call it the flex off.
A record 132 competitors added colour to this catwalk for the Natural Bodybuilding Championships. The aim, just to look good. Nat Wallace, NBN News.
Western started grand final day as slight favourites, but that tag meant nothing when the Eagles got stuck in. It took just 5 minutes and Joel Wood beat them all to open the scoring. Michael Ryan brought the best out of Ben Smith. But when Luke Stansky's pinpoint cross found Wood, the league's leading scorer and the Eagles had goal number 2. Western was desperate for something to drop their way, and Big Bear Rob Macbeth duly delivered. Edgeworth had just the reply, care of Damien Zane, only a minute later. It was end-to-end stuff. Michael Holt returned serve for Western to make it 3-2 at the break. Ryan almost had them level just after half-time. But a terrible mistake at the back really cost the Bears. Tim Pratt could only watch as Shane Knight walked home the Eagles' 4th. In search of a lifeline, it came via a penalty, but Ben Smith again came to the Eagles' rescue, denying Western and making sure Edgeworth's day would surely go through the night.
For Jamie Purdon's relatives and his girlfriend, today brought some justice.
And the fact, we've got a guilty verdict, that sort of goes some way to showing that Jamie did matter.
The one-woman, 11-man jury began deliberating on Friday. This morning it sought a copy of the judge's legal directions to gain a clarification. Only minutes after hearing a section again, it returned with a guilty verdict. Mr Purdon's family sat through the 2-week trial. It wasn't expecting a decision so soon.
It was just play the waiting game and see. But very happy with the way things have turned out, and hopefully sort of get back to normal a little bit now.
The 17-year-old, who can't be named, was found to have incited the fight that led to Mr Purdon's death at the Maitland show in February last year. Another man has already been convicted of manslaughter for delivering the fatal punch. During the trial, the court was told the 17-year-old enlisted a friend's help and said he wanted that person, Jamie Purdon, taken care of.
Hopefully other young ones sort of take a bit of a lesson on board and see that, that sort of behaviour is not acceptable and learn something from it.
The teen will be sentenced on November 18. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. It's one of Newcastle's most beautiful streets, but there's now just a week left in which to enjoy the 80-year-old fig trees. Layman Street will be closed to traffic next Monday, with the chainsaws moving in on the Tuesday.
The crowns of the tree will go first, and then we'll come back and remove the trunk sections. That process should disturb any potential microbats that may be in there.
The removal process will take 3 weeks, finishing with stump grinding. Over that time, the southern footpath will mostly remain open to allow public access to the gallery and library. The $1.4 million project will also see the street and footpaths entirely remade using pavers early next year. Surprisingly, 8 new Hills figs will be planted in the centre of the street. But to ensure the safety debate doesn't rear its ugly head again, a trench vault system will be used to create appropriate space for the tree roots.
Below ground they'll have a very well developed and structured root system, and they'll be planted into structural vaults under the ground, which is a load bearing material, has a soil component so you can drive on it, walk on it, but it provides a massive area for root systems to develop.
The current one-way traffic will continue with parking on both sides of the road. Anti-cut-down campaigners say they haven't exhausted legal avenues and also haven't ruled out demonstrations next week. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. Colburn is synonymous with fine wine, but today's event was all about fine food. And it was a very different kind of food fight, as two teams of 3 chefs each prepared an entree, main and dessert before guests voted for their favourite meal. High-profile Hunter chefs competing in the cook-off were assisted by TAFE apprentices, with the luncheon also fostering up-and-coming talent.
It's aimed at getting young apprentices and chefs together as a networking opportunity, as well as getting younger apprentices to work with some of the more high-profile chefs in the Hunter region.
The proceeds of an auction will go to the Hunter TAFE's Brett Graham Scholarship. Meanwhile, in Maitland, judges are smelling, sipping and spitting at the annual Hunter Valley Boutique Wine Show, checking for colour, aromas and assessing the palate. All 7 judges are accomplished Hunter winemakers, including Keith Tulloch. The top drops will be announced this Thursday.
Three-year-old Lucas Saunders is a picture of good health, and her eating habits have helped researchers better understand what is a tricky age group.
It's very, very difficult to work out exactly what kids eat. They pick at things, they have lots of little snacks. So many researchers just don't measure what children are eating, and it's a major, major gap in our knowledge.
Luca was a participant in a research project measuring dietary intake in toddlers. Over a period of about a week, every morsel of food was measured, as was her energy expenditure through an accelerometer. These were technical measures, all aimed at understanding just what kids eat.
What it basically is allowing us to develop a questionnaire that's simple for parents to fill in to capture really well what food our children are eating.
For Luca's family, it's provided valuable insight.
I could just see it was a really good opportunity to try and further research in the Hunter about effective ways to measure eating behaviours in kids.
The project was funded by the Hunter Children's Research Foundation, which today received an $11,000 donation from the Australian Hotels Association, allowing more research to blossom.
This is our 15th year, so with the donation today from the AHA, that brings us up to $990,000 that we've raised, so we're really excited about approaching that $1 million mark.
For our kids, that will be something to celebrate.
On a positive front, Newcastle is creating chances, but without a win from 6 rounds of the A-League so far and only 2 goals for the season, it's hard to ignore the elephant in the room.
It was pretty obvious. We just lacked that cutting edge up front. And at the end of the day, you need an individual who's going to make a difference.
Chinese striker Zhang Shu is still working towards full fitness. However, the coach remains aware of the ongoing distraction the club's future is causing.
I think some of the players, it didn't bother them, but obviously others may have been affected.
Goals were the least of Edgeworth's problems in the NBN Football League decider. Joel Wood scored a first-half double to help the Eagles get the better of Western and claim their first title since 2003.
It's brilliant. We've been working hard all year, playing good football, and this is the reward, isn't it?
Better still for the coaching staff, with Rob Jovanovski stepping down this year.
We've been a great combination, you know. I'm going to miss not being with him.
It's very special to do it with me mate and all the people that we love here. And I just want to dedicate it to Brad Redmond, who passed away this year. It's been a big part of our club, and I'm just looking up to you, Brad.
How's this for a way to begin a grand final? Scott Dunn pushing past Denman's defence and going the distance to get Aberdeen off to a running start. Gary McKean had a few tricks of his own. Kicking for himself, the half got the Devils back on level pegging. Former Dragon Nathan Blacklock did his best to keep the Tigers ticking. But it was Dunn dining out on the other edge, who helped set up a 14-6 lead. Luke Hasselman struck right back, closing the margin to just 2 before the break. While Shane Hasselman proved anything his brother could do, he could do too. They both continued to trade tries before McKean got the Devils in front for the first time in the match. Then, in a finish they'll long talk about in Tiger Town, Shane Allen crashed over to claim the crown for Aberdeen, and weren't they happy about that? A bad barrier won't always cost you a race, but a good one sure can help. And Newport is somewhere in the middle of that equation for the Newcastle Cup. That's fine by the trainer, who knows what the old grey can do.
Oh, mate, I reckon it'd be super. You know, I haven't had that many runs over the years in the race, and no, it would be great to win.
Still vying for his first hometown cup win, Perry's also a good chance in Wednesday's Cameron Handicap with Prince Brayman. Boom apprentice Blake Spriggs lost his ride in that event today, but still scored a win, named the NJC's Achiever of the Year.
Pretty prestigious for me, and I travelled all the way down from Sydney just to be here. I love Newcastle, and it's a place you never forget.
Tom Wallace has waited a lot longer for this. The 92-year-old former jockey rode Tapestry to a cup win in 1936, but didn't receive a trophy until today. Female hoop Alex Stokes was named the club's rising star, while Chris Lee's picked up gongs for preparing the best 2 gallopers for the year, including Horse of the Year, Absolutely Fabulous.
This horrific accident is believed to have been caused by fatigue. 2 men were travelling south along Leggett's Drive just before 8 a.m. when their tray-top ute collided head-on with a Pantech.
The driver and the passenger in the utility were killed instantly, and it's a timely reminder for drivers just to take their time and not be in a hurry. If they do feel tired, to take a break.
While the men are yet to be formally identified, police are investigating whether they were coal mine workers coming off a night shift.
And that's what we assume with these 2, that they were travelling from somewhere in the coalfields home to the Central Coast.
Early investigations have revealed that the ute was on the wrong side of the road when the 2 vehicles hit. Police say these tyre tracks are evidence that the truck did try to brake but was unable to avoid a collision. Crash investigators say the lack of tyre marks from the ute indicate the driver may have fallen asleep at the wheel. Over the past 3 years, several shift workers have lost their lives along the section of road which connects Hunter Mines to the F3 freeway. The truck driver was taken to Maitland Hospital where he was treated for shock. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
$1 a litre for petrol. It may seem like a pleasant stroll down memory lane, but the economists predict Australians will see it again, and soon. The cost of standard unleaded was more like this across regional New South Wales today, but there's no doubt it's on the way down. Nationally, prices are in a downward spiral and are already at their lowest levels in almost 11 months, thanks to stable crude oil prices and a rising Aussie dollar. But the NRMA is warning drivers not to bank on the $1 per litre mark just yet.
That is in Sydney, and that is the lowest point.
Traditionally, motorists outside Sydney pay at least 5 cents a litre more for regular fuel.
We believe that over the next few days up to a week, there'll be an improvement in the Hunter of up to 5 cents per litre. That'll come down from about $1.20 per litre to $1.15 per litre on average.
What the experts are unsure of is just how long the cheaper prices will last. So the advice is, when you see a price you like, fill up.
It may not last long at all, so make the most of it.
If prices at the pump do fall to the magical dollar mark, the average motorist would be paying $17 a month less to fill up the car compared with June. Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
The innuendo that they've been through a pollution event is enough to for people not want to buy them anyway. So it's more or less wiped our industry out.
How long will it take you?
After a controversial 2 years in the top job, Bruce McKenzie says he'll walk away from the Mayor's chair tonight without any regrets.
Anyone would say they've probably been hectic years, controversial years. I seem to be, attract a bit of controversy because I make things happen.
Mr McKenzie counts securing a multi-million-dollar loan to improve roads and drainage among his most significant achievements.
We've spent probably another $6 million all up on roads. We've improved our drainage. We've attracted Sandvik 600 jobs at Heatherbrae.
He's endorsed Bob Westbury as his replacement. The Deputy Mayor is expected to attract at least 6 of the 12 votes and says he doesn't have any pecuniary interests and is keen to see the council become more cohesive. But at the moment, it's still a very divided House, and that's likely to be reflected in tonight's result.
I don't know who's standing, whether there's Councillor Nell, Dingle or whoever, but if they stick together and support one of them, there'll be 6 all.
If that's how it plays out, a name will be drawn out of a hat. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News. Michael Croft was diagnosed with an extremely rare form of cancer 3 days after his 2nd birthday, and despite a brave battle, doctors say the shy 10-year-old may not make this Christmas.
He suffers from tumours that are very hard as rock, painful. He's had treatments that have treated the tumours in the past, but now we've come to the point where there's nothing else that can be done for him.
The Madawi community has rallied to grant Michael a final wish, a room of his own. At the moment, his family of 9 squeezes into 3 bedrooms.
When he's Michael's mum, she said, I'd just like him to have a room of his own before he dies. So I thought, well, that's not a bad request from mum.
Michael's teacher organised local tradesmen to finish renovations begun before Michael got sick. The room is expected to be complete by next week, and not a moment too soon for the keen youngster.
He must probably stay in there. We'll have to give him his meals and everything in there for the first week.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
The Williamtown RAAF base was established against the backdrop of the escalating Second World War. Fit young men from across the country signed up to its newly established 450 Squadron in 1941, part of the Empire Air Training Scheme that saw Australia contribute aircrew and ground staff to the war effort. They were sent overseas to help fight the Germans and the Japanese.
Aeroplanes, engines, wireless, guns, bombs must all be maintained at maximum efficiency.
Closer to home, and the base also provided protection for local steelmaking and shipping. Former Mirage and Hornet pilot John Quaife holds the base and its history close to his heart.
We needed some air defence on the east coast, particularly defence of Sydney, but more importantly the industrial base that was Newcastle and the harbour was recognised as needing defending, and so the powers that be at the time decided to put down RAAF Base Williamtown.
Flashing forward almost 70 years, and Williamtown is now the largest fighter base in Australia, employing more than 3,000 people and contributing $150 million in annual wages to the local community. It's home to the FA-18 Hornets, Hawk fighter trainers and the new Wedgetail surveillance jets. But all that sheer power has its drawbacks. Jet noise is a constant frustration for many who live nearby.
You get to a point where you can't hear yourself, you can't think, you can't concentrate on what you're doing, you can't hear anyone on the telephone.
The planned introduction of the noisy new Joint Strike Fighter later this decade has cast uncertainty over land values and threatens major new housing estates like Kings Hill near Raymond Terrace.
Operating noisy aircraft can be a terrible inconvenience to some of the residents that have to put up with that. But then I know that there is a tremendous pride in the community as well, and the amount of support that the base receives is terrific.
Tomorrow night we take you onto the base to meet the men and women who are helping to defend Australia. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Pretty much catch up when we're over there and find out where we're running and all that. But I think in the meantime, we're all just doing our own training, make sure that we're all in the right shape, ready for the team when we come together at Commonwealth Games.
I was asked by Hayden Knowles, who's the mastermind behind the whole thing. So, yeah, it's nice to get a bit of recognition, and obviously to be in the same sort of category as Melinda is fantastic.
Lucky these guys don't make ads for a living. And that's fine when you're Jared Mullen, who's firmly back in the eyes of representative selectors following his inclusion in the PM's 13.
I played back in 06, so it's been a long time between drinks, so we're grabbing the opportunity of 2 million, that's for sure.
It's due reward for his strong finish to the year for Newcastle, and he wants it to roll on into even bigger things next year. Akuyuante will do a tough to top his 2010, but his selection is another important step for the Fijian-born flyer towards full Australian selection. In the embattled Jets camp, Marko Jesic is all smiles. After his horrible run of injuries, which included 3 major knee operations, he's in the Olyroos team that will tour Vietnam next week.
A good feeling just to be back playing after being out for so long, about a year and 7 months. So just to be back out there on the park with the boys, and especially with the other boys that have been playing for a while, the under 20. So just good to be back.
It'll leave the side down a striker for its next 3 games, starting with Perth at home on Friday night. Those Stocks are under some strain, with Kiwi star Jeremy Brockie unable to train today due to an issue with hamstring and groin.
A country trainer who could well be on his way to fame and fortune. Todd Howlett's shining light is star of Octagonal.
Yeah, he certainly changed everything for me, and yeah, he's been a great horse.
Star of Octagonal is being prepared for what's only start number 7. However, he's already looking at reaching the magic $1 million prize money mark. His last start effort earned almost half of that. But tomorrow, he's being thrown in the deep end. He'll take on some of the state's best sprinters in Newcastle's Cameron Handicap.
It's tough, but he's a very nice horse, so I hope he can.
The horse seems pretty relaxed about his chances, but for Howlett, winning is everything. The 39-year-old, a former council worker, quit his day job to build a racing empire.
It was a risk to do what I did, but I'm pleased I did. But it's up and down, and but I enjoy it. It's a good life.
And one that could be about to get even better. Nat Wallace, NBN News.
I've trouble remembering a lot of what the horse has achieved. It just amazes me at times when you go through his record.
Bob Westbury is ready to swing into action.
I'm over the moon. I mean, it's something that you don't expect to get in life, and particularly a draw out of a box.
But that's what it came down to when, as expected, Port Stephens councillors voted along factional lines. It was 6 apiece for Jeff Dingle and the then Deputy Mayor.
And that's almost what it was. Bingo, out comes the number, and I got it.
Mayor Westbury says he'll use his experience as a businessman to create a more cohesive council.
Really, it's about talking to people. That's what you need to do. You need to communicate, and I don't think that's what happened in the last 2 years.
Maintaining he has no pecuniary interests, he says growth will also be a priority during his 2-year term.
We're open for business and we want people to come here. We want developers to come and see us. We want to do things. The Tomaree hasn't had a new building of any size or structure for the last nearly 10 years.
Sally Dover was elected Deputy Mayor. Last night was the final time councillors will decide who takes the top job. From 2012, it will go to a popular vote. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
It's a big day for young Marcus, who's being released back into the bush after recuperating with koala carer Jill Taylor. And it's not quite smooth sailing.
I've got a feeling that this boy's going to come down again.
The reason behind Marcus's reluctance lurks 20 metres away in the form of a mature bull.
He would belt the heck out of this young bloke. No way would he allow another young koala into his territory.
Take two and a different tree 150 metres away sees a successful result.
That's better.
Good boy, Marcus.
Koalas are especially active this time of the year with their breeding season in full swing. Unfortunately, that means more get hit by cars. 5-month-old Brooke was tucked inside his mother's pouch when the pair was struck on Friday.
He's very lucky. He hasn't got a mark on him. But unfortunately, Mum was severely injured with head injuries and she didn't make it.
Since 2000, 95 koalas have been hit by cars in Port Stephens, 67 of them fatally. The wildlife group says one simple thing could be done to reduce the toll.
Our main problem in Port Stephens area is the Nelson Bay Road, the main thoroughfare. The RTA will not allow us to put the koala crossing or wildlife crossing signs with a rescue number. So animals get hit on Nelson Bay Road, nobody knows who to ring.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
The fort wasn't named Fort Scratchley until a couple of years after it was built. And as far as we can ascertain, it wasn't ever formally proclaimed Fort Scratchley. It's a name that just seemed to be adopted by everybody.
What these budding green thumbs plant today will be eaten tomorrow.
We've been planting some cucumber and capsicum and lettuce.
Because, you know, you like to stay healthy and you don't really want to get fat.
It's sustainable, teaches kids to grow their own, gets them involved in nature.
The Bush Tucker Garden and Orchard is an extension of the Breakfast Club, an initiative that has been feeding Hunter students since 1993.
So they come and they get a meal, and if we show them we care for them.
Islington is the latest school to jump on board the scheme, which caters for around 1,000 pupils a week.
If we can give them a start, with a decent breakfast and at least get them through the day, then it does make a difference. I've noticed a big difference in classrooms as to how kids are attentive.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
The industry wants to make sure that it reduces the risk of the platforms kind of breaking loose, and they've had a few shocks to indicate that the chains are actually corroding faster than they were expecting.
Our military pilots are the rock stars of the skies, and at RAF Base Williamtown, the Hornet is king. Australia's first strike weapon is fast and deadly, and our pilots just love flying it.
This jet in particular can turn a lot faster than a lot of other jets out there, so when you pull back on the stick, it just turns the corner a lot faster. So in dogfighting, it's really good fun because you can just threaten someone really quick. You can go faster than the speed of sound.
But before stepping up to the Hornet, pilots train on the Hawk lead-in fighter. Squadron leader Taffy Smith is an instructor.
The Hawk's a great aircraft to fly from a pilot's perspective. It's a very easy aircraft, it's very animated, everything inside is digital, and it lets you know exactly what's going on in its system. So it's a great pilot's aircraft, there's not too much to worry about except to fly it.
The Air Combat Officer rides in the back seat of a Hawk, and they don't come more fresh-faced than young student Marty Rowe. Keeping the aircraft going is the role of maintenance engineers like Sam Hearn, who joined the Air Force when she left school.
The aircraft, although they're machines, they each have their own individual personalities, and some of them are, good flyers, and some of them give us challenges at every day. So it's very interesting.
The sophisticated systems on board the aircraft are maintained by avionics technicians who use feedback from the pilots to ensure everything is working as it should.
So they have to trust us that we can do our job properly so they can do theirs, so which is quite a big thing, quite a big responsibility for everybody.
Civil aircraft share the Williamtown runway with the fighter jets, and the hundreds of weekly movements are closely monitored in the control tower. Formerly known as air traffic controllers, they're now called JBACs, or Joint Battlefield Airspace Controllers, and they can be called upon to apply their skills anywhere in the world.
We can do everything from defence aid to the civil community, as we did in Operation Haiti Assist, as well as we have people that are parachute trained, as well as qualified to do airspace management on board the naval ships.
And when you talk to people who work at the base, like electronics engineer Andrew Coop, they'll all tell you their unusual work is rewarding.
I love the fact that I'm achieving an outcome. I can see a real outcome that I'm achieving with regards to the greater being of Australia and the defence and all those sort of things. I love the sound of aircraft noise as well.
Tomorrow night, from fighter pilot to air racer, Matt Hall returns to Williamtown for the air show. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
The Glory has a reputation for being defensive on the road, but Branko Kalina believes that won't be the case this Friday.
The best thing that happened for us is that they lost last week, because I don't think they'll play like that. If they do, then I think they'll be under pressure.
Jeremy Brockie was back on the training paddock for the Jets today, but captain Michael Bridges is in some doubt because of a knee injury. With Marko Jesic away with the Ollie Roos, the return of Ruben Zadkovic from suspension is timely, and the coach says the off-season signing has to learn to manage his aggression.
You don't want to take away the fire in his belly that he has, because that's what makes him a quality player, but you also don't want him to be reckless.
Robbie Fowler's visit is expected to attract extra attention, but Jets players and officials want their supporters in the stands every week.
The people of Newcastle have to also ask themselves, do they want a football team in this town? Because it is serious.
Trust me, as a footballer, it makes a massive difference. Having the people of your town turning up, when things aren't going right for you, I think that's when we need them most.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
In the sport of kings, this guy once held the throne, and even in retirement, takeover Target and his trainer can still pull a crowd.
He's proved that he's a champion, been champion of Australia and overseas, and people just love him a bit, yeah.
But the interest in today's Cameron Field was just as strong. A who's who of racing turned out to talk up their chances.
Rock Kingdom's done everything right, he's drawn a bit awkwardly.
And he'd have to overcome potential superstars like Star of Octagonal, also Pinwheel, who'd never missed a place in 13 starts. According to punters, they were the two to beat.
Most of the money's been for Pinwheel and Star of Octagonal. They're the two most popular horses at the moment.
But racing is full of surprises. The $18 chance also broke Luskin Star's 33-year-old race record.
The adrenaline's going, I don't know what to say, I'm speechless.
Trainer Graham Murray now has some planning to do.
I'm just not real sure whether I'll go to Melbourne or I'll go to Brisbane or what I do. I just get on the grog for the night and I'll decide tomorrow.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
It's not a fun feeling to walk off here Sunday afternoon, grand final day, getting beat.
Watch the crowds grow and grow this season especially. You know, we're just enjoying the moment, so yeah, we're very excited about Sunday.
Last weekend, ugly scenes like this were captured around Australia amid Operation Unite. But in Newcastle, alcohol-related violence is becoming less common. A new study has found assaults have dropped by 37% since 2008.
That is 37% fewer assaults occurred than would have happened had the restriction not been put in place.
That restriction is the tighter trading hours enforced at 14 CBD night spots. Professor Kypros Kypri's study analysed assault data from the 18 months after the curfew was introduced and compared it to nearby Hamilton, which doesn't have the same restrictions.
And in fact, in population health research, which I'm involved in, you don't see this for other kinds of strategies for health promotion, for a variety of things. It's a staggeringly large effect.
It's led to calls for Newcastle's restrictions to be adopted around the country.
We've been inundated by support from the local community, but also residents in other cities throughout Australia saying, how can we achieve this incredible 37% reduction in violence?
New South Wales Gaming and Racing Minister Kevin Green has acknowledged the results but says he won't be recommending similar restrictions elsewhere because the most violent pubs and clubs already adhere to strict conditions.
You'll find that there's broad agreement that we've got a problem. Here's an evidence-based strategy. Why the hell aren't we implementing something that we know works?
Hunter companies like Forjax and Varley have completed multi-million-dollar defence contracts, but it seems there's more money to be made, especially in the aerospace industry.
The ambition in New South Wales is to have a third of the defence dollar in New South Wales, and a large share of that will happen in the Hunter.
During the Aerospace Summit, delegates have heard how the established manufacturing industry, as well as the Williamtown RAF base, provide a solid foundation for growth.
As a community, we need to embrace all of that, because it's not just for the people of today, it's jobs for the future for young people.
According to stakeholders, the key to attracting contracts is to improve training opportunities and help small to medium businesses get defence ready.
They represent about 75% of the people employed in the manufacturing and engineering industry. So we need to connect those. There's big dollars here, large expenditures.
Singleton-based company Pegasus agrees it's an opportunity too good to miss.
It's looking for small business to be able to be a part of that, and hopefully we've got something that we can offer in terms of people safety management.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
This is not your average kitchen, and these are certainly not your average chefs.
We're making the dip. There's vegetable soup and pumpkin soup. And then we just made cheese sticks with obviously cheese and poppy seeds on them.
It's a lot of cooking.
yeah, it's quite hard.
It's part of the Stephanie Alexander Kitchen Garden program, which along with community funding helped build the impressive kitchen. Have you learnt a lot?
Yeah, it's been a really good time and you learn heaps. I didn't know anything about cooking.
A lot of the produce being used here has been grown by the kids themselves in this garden. So what have we got in here?
The shallots and spinach and celery.
These chickens help too by providing up to 10 eggs a day. It's a lot of fun for the students while they learn important life lessons.
If you start at an early age, learning the importance of good food, good cooking and the sustainable nature of the environment around us, then it's going to set you up well for in the future.
Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
It's not Halloween, but pumpkins adorn Maitland's shops as the city gets behind the Pickers ahead of their Newcastle Rugby League showdown with Cessnock.
Well, it's not every year we get the Pickers into the finals. So this year we're up there, the grand final. So we put the black and white in the window.
Maitland last won a grand final in 1983 and almost had to drop out of the local league 2 years ago, so the significance of Sunday's match certainly hasn't been lost. Bit of a proud weekend?
Yes, it's great for Maitland if they come up and win this. It's going to be fantastic. It'll bring the town together.
The Blacks have also made their way into the Newcastle and Hunter Rugby Grand Final, where they'll face the Hamilton Hawks, another milestone being marked. Now, are you confident they're going to win?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this town is going to have a blackout both Saturday and Sunday afternoon, I think you'll find.
But on the league front at least, the people of Cessnock beg to differ. The Goannas' colours adorn the town's main street, their sponsors even going so far as to put their mouth where their money is.
I think we'll get there, and well, I'm confident.
Madeline Bond, NBN News. 17-year-old Innocencia Abuk and 15-year-old Martin both suffer from incredibly rare facial tumours. The condition affects just 1 in every million people. Martin is so self-conscious about her appearance, she's all but vanished from society. Innocencia's tumour started growing last November. It's doubled in size in just 6 months.
Okay, it's hurt at night, and when it hurts I feel it's a bit bigger.
Surgeon Bob Silla discovered the girls while in West Timor and through Rotary arranged to have them brought to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital to undergo life-saving surgery.
These are aggressive tumours. They're not malignant in the sense that they can spread to other parts of the body, but they just enlarge progressively and eventually they obstruct their airway. So it's absolutely essential that these kids, have these tumours removed.
Today, the teenagers underwent pre-operation tests. 2 surgical teams will perform the 8-hour operations free of charge on Sunday night.
What's involved in that is removing half of the jaw that includes the tumour. And that's going to be replaced by a bone graft from the lower leg.
And the girls are understandably all smiles at the prospect of a second chance at life.
If the tumour removed, then I can be happy, and then I will be happy then.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
We've been negotiating in good faith now for almost 12 months with Macquarie Generation. We haven't been able to reach a conclusion, and there's no apparent pathway forward at this point.
This is how we're used to seeing Matt Hall, busting out spectacular gravity-defying manoeuvres as a fierce competitor in the worldwide air race series. But just a few years ago, the Newcastle pilot was one of the RAF's ace fighter instructors, with combat experience in the Middle East to his credit. His weapon of choice, the FA-18. And yes, that is Matt's real-sized race plane next to the Hornet. 39 years old today, Matt says he took a risk leaving the Air Force to become an air racer.
Basically, my entire adult life. Joined when I was a teenager and left when I was 37. So it was my life. So it is a big thing to move away from.
The Merriweather dad, who was named Fighter Pilot of the Year in 2007, has experienced both elation and disappointment since joining the series.
The last year for the air race didn't go as well as I was hoping. 2009 was a fantastic season to come in third as a rookie, and I think I actually really did believe I could improve on that. We got a new plane and a faster aircraft, but unfortunately we didn't get it set up in time, and it just kept stopping us from getting into the groove for racing, and in fact ended up with me crashing on the Detroit River.
It took all Matt's skill as a pilot to keep the plane flying, later admitting the crash had shaken him up. He'll return to air racing when it resumes in 2012. But in the meantime, he'll be showing off the plane around Australia, including this weekend when he'll perform at the air show.
I love all sorts of flying, from hang gliders through to jet fighters, and to get to fly a couple of different types at the air show, which is going to be doing some unlimited type aerobatics and demonstrating some race manoeuvring, but also fly a World War II fighter and lead a heritage flight. They're just great things to be able to do.
Matt recently thrilled Newcastle Jets football star Tarek Elrich with a wild flight.
I'm a wuss compared to these blokes.
He didn't want to do a loop until I told him I'd even done one with my mum, and then he finally relented.
I set some goals for myself of what I wanted to achieve, and I've had even more come my way. So I've had and am having a great life, and to be now self-employed in the aviation industry is really a dream come true.
Tomorrow night, everything you need to know about attending the air show, and we take you live to the base for the final preparations. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
It was beautiful Broadmeadow at its best, and once again the crowds packed in.
We had a record Cameron Day yesterday, and again today's even better.
In the Gold Cup, the Paul Perry-trained Newport was the sentimental favourite, but the punters' hard-earned was split between Snow Alert and Scouting Wide. No big event is complete without the national anthem. And when the gates opened, Strata Fortress was dancing to the right beat. It settled down well before dominating in the home stretch. After a few lean years in the Cup, trainer Gay Waterhouse has rekindled her love affair with the city and its track.
All the horses are used to racing up here. It's just so much fun. And we stayed up here last night. We haven't stayed here for a couple of years. I felt quietly confident going into this race today. The horses racing so stoutly, so strongly.
For jockey Peter Roble, it was just reward after moving to Sydney from country Victoria 3 years ago.
To ride a group winner for Gay is, a great buzz, and, to always win a country cup's always a great thrill. I'm a country boy.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. The last time Maitland won the title, it was Robert Finch who did the damage, coincidentally against Cessnock. "27 years later, the faces have changed, the rivalry remains. The Goanna's Mark White has suffered the disappointment of 2 straight grand final losses, but hasn't lost his sense of humour.
Where do you think it'll be won and lost from your point of view?
Number 1 sports career.
His side won't use last year's controversial loss to Wyong as motivation.
The boys have got a chance to maybe wipe a few demons away, but it's not the be-all and end-all. It hasn't hardly been mentioned. It's all focusing on Sunday and hopefully get the right result this year.
Confidence is high at Cessnock thanks to a tough finals campaign, but the Goannas admit they'd almost given up 2 months ago.
We were struggling at the time and treading water there for a while, but the boys have really in the last 4 or 5 weeks have really dug deep and put themselves in a good position for Sunday.
Pickers coach Noel Dent had no doubts following Cessnock's semi-final win over Wyong.
Really, to be honest, I would have preferred to play West. These blokes will play for 80 minutes, so we're going to have to be very, very good on Sunday.
Unlike Cessnock, the Pickers have played just 2 games in a month and can't afford a repeat of the slow start they made against the Rosellas.
They'll shut us out the game. If we're chasing points against these blokes, we'll keep trying, but I couldn't anticipate getting over the top of these blokes in the last 10 if they're going to lead.
The team split the points in 2 games this season, and Sunday's clash is looming as a classic.
Finally, mate, give us a prediction.
Maitland. Cessnock win, mate. That's all. I don't care, boy. Half a point will do.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.